Bruh, here we go again. Caitlyn is out minding her business. She out working on her golf swing at Michael Jordan's private golf course, doing her thing, not bothering nobody. Caitlyn Clark is not bothering nobody. And here we have another hating WNBA player being a flat out liar and a hater, and we gotta call them out and hold their feet to the fire. This is nasty, nasty work. Nasty work, bruh. I'm telling you, they can't help themselves. These girls honestly can't help themselves. I don't even know how to pronounce.
She delivered the statement with a kind of icy assurance, the kind that makes every word feel intentional. Louise G., a Dallas Wings player and teammate of Paige Bueckers, asserted that Caitlyn Clark was a key figure in the transformation of women's basketball, but, in her words, not the key figure. According to her, Paige's competitive edge was unmatched, something she'd witnessed firsthand. What started as a casual remark quickly turned into something much sharper. Her tone carried a quiet precision, almost dismissive, as if designed to stir the pot rather than contribute to honest discussion. And for Caitlyn Clark, the undeniable face of the league, the timing couldn't have been more unfair. She wasn't in the spotlight that day. She wasn't even on the court. She was simply enjoying a round of golf at Michael Jordan's private course when the comments dropped, catching her completely off guard. To many, this wasn't just a personal opinion, it felt like a calculated swipe. Fans saw it as an attempt to chip away at the reputation of a once-in-a-generation athlete, twisting the narrative for no clear reason other than attention. The backlash was instant. Social media lit up, analysts jumped in, and fans demanded accountability. What made it worse was the boldness of it all, a public statement seemingly crafted to challenge Clark's towering influence within the WNBA. The message was unmistakable, this wasn't going to be brushed aside. A line had been crossed, and the league, along with its fans, was watching closely.
Let's rock. So, Louisa G., that plays for the Dallas Wings, Paige Bueckers' teammate, felt the need to go on Instagram and take shots at Caitlyn Clark to try to uplift Paige Bueckers. You can uplift Paige Bueckers without talking about Caitlyn Clark. You could do that. She wants to go play Captain Saver for Paige Bueckers based on fans' opinion, and she wants to go take shots at Caitlyn Clark on Instagram. Then she goes on a podcast, and all
entire controversy didn't appear out of nowhere. It grew out of a familiar debate among fans. Supporters of Caitlyn Clark often point to her relentless competitiveness, her killer instinct, as the key reason she stands apart from every other rising star in women's basketball, including Paige Bueckers. For many, that mental edge isn't just a trait, it's the very heartbeat of Clark's game, the spark that redefines how people see women's basketball. But that same narrative was exactly what Louise G. decided to confront. Stepping forward as a defender of her teammate, she openly disputed the idea that Clark had a monopoly on intensity. According to her, Bueckers possessed that same ferocious drive, that same instinct to close out games, a statement that many fans interpreted as a direct attempt to even the playing field and chip away at Clark's perceived dominance. What might have seemed like a small disagreement quickly escalated into something much bigger. The discussion spiraled into a heated fan war, tapping into deeper frustration simmering beneath the surface about loyalty, rivalry, and recognition within the league. What started as a comment about attitude and grit turned into a revealing look at how fragile the balance of respect can be when two generational talents are compared side by side. And just like that, a single opinion had evolved into a lightning rod, exposing the fault lines running through both the fan base and the league itself, tensions that weren't going to fade quietly.
The show's host, Enoch Wolf, asked Guzelder Louisa, we call her Louisa, to choose between her teammate and the Indiana Fever star guard. The Wings center delved into her thoughts before naming Paige Bueckers as the winner of the matchup. We know that's a bold-faced lie. We know good and well that is a damn lie. Nobody is taking no damn Paige Bueckers over Caitlyn Clark. And y'all make us have to say things like, yo, Paige Bueckers, yo, she can't even sell out. She got the third lowest attendance in the league. We like Paige, but when y'all do this...
The spark that ignited this entire controversy first appeared on a Saturday episode of the Journey podcast. During the interview, hosts Enoch Wolf and Guzzo placed Louise G. squarely in the hot seat with a deceptively simple question. If she had to choose between her own teammate, Paige Bueckers, and Indiana Fever star Caitlyn Clark, who would come out on top? Louise didn't hesitate. After a brief pause to collect her thoughts, she confidently named Bueckers as her pick, a response that, on its surface, might have seemed harmless or loyal. But to the public, that choice spoke volumes. The moment she voiced her answer, the tension was set in motion. Listeners immediately began dissecting her words, questioning whether this was just a teammate's show of support or something far more deliberate. In a league where Clark's reputation as a trailblazer is almost untouchable, such a comparison was bound to stir emotion. The podcast episode quickly spread across social media, replayed and reinterpreted in countless clips, sparking heated discussions about respect, rivalry, and recognition. That appearance became the first act in what would soon become a much larger drama, a preview of the sharper, more provocative comments Louise G would go on to share online. The podcast didn't just capture a moment, it marked the opening scene of a public clash that would ripple through the entire women's basketball community.
Things like, yo, Paige, she can't even sell out. She got the third lowest attendance in the league. We like Paige, but when y'all do this, when y'all do that, we have to do this. We have to do this. None of us was talking about Paige. We wasn't thinking about Paige. She got to go do Unrivaled. Nobody's bothering her. Okay, the fans had a lot to say about Louisa's opinion. They swarmed the post comment section with their take on Wing Star's opinions and on Bueckers-Clark matchup. One fan gave Fever Garden upper hand in the matchup. It says Caitlin Clark is revolutionizing women's basketball.
Notion that anyone could realistically choose Paige Bueckers over Caitlin Clark in a one-on-one matchup immediately struck many as implausible, even dishonest. Commentators wasted no time calling it out, labeling the claim a complete distortion of reality and igniting a wave of disbelief across social media and sports talk circles alike. As the debate intensified, attention turned toward a sobering fact that undercut the entire argument. Bueckers' team currently ranks near the bottom of the league in attendance, a glaring contrast to Caitlin Clark's record-breaking influence. Wherever Clark plays, arenas fill to capacity, tickets vanish within hours, and viewership spikes. Her ability to draw fans isn't just impressive, it's reshaping the economics of the league itself. This stark difference in fan engagement and cultural reach became the cornerstone of Clark supporters' rebuttal. To them, it wasn't about tearing another player down, it was about grounding the discussion in measurable reality. The numbers spoke louder than any opinion, revealing a gap too large to ignore. For many, Louise G's earlier comments now felt less like a loyal defense of a teammate and more like a deliberate dismissal of Clark's unparalleled impact. The frustration that followed wasn't just emotional, it was factual, data-driven, and deeply rooted in the visible evidence of who currently defines the face of women's basketball.
Now, this is where the disrespect comes in. Now pay attention to this. This is where the disrespect starts. It's too much, and we got to call these people out. We have to. She goes and says this. This is what Louisa had to say on Instagram. It says, Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. Definitely not the only one, though. Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct. I can confirm 100% from live experience. So here we go again. It's not only her.
Louise G didn't stop at her podcast remarks. Refusing to let the debate fade, she took her stance to Instagram, where her words would echo far louder. In a post that immediately caught fire online, she reiterated her position with striking certainty. Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. But she's not the only one. Paige Bueckers has that killer instinct. I can confirm it 100% from live experience. The message was direct, unmistakable, and intentionally public. What could have been framed as simple praise for a teammate instead came across as a calculated move, a pointed challenge to the idea that Clark alone defines the modern era of women's basketball. The tone of the post, firm and unapologetic, signaled that Louise wasn't merely voicing an opinion, she was pushing back against the dominant narrative that places Clark at the very center of the league's evolution. Almost instantly, the reaction was explosive. Fans flooded the comments, analysts dissected every line, and the sports community collectively questioned the motivation behind such a statement. Many interpreted it as less about celebration and more about subtraction, a subtle attempt to downplay Clark's unmatched influence rather than share the spotlight. In trying to elevate her teammate, Louise G had instead lit a fuse. What began as a player's defense of loyalty now looked like a deliberate campaign to dispute the legacy of one of the sport's brightest stars. The fallout was swift and fierce, confirming that the controversy wasn't just surviving.
Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct. I can confirm 100% from live experience. So here we go again. It's not only her, it's me too. Get the out of here. Get out of here, Louisa. Nobody's thinking about you, bro. Why are you talking about Caitlin Clark? Who are you? Who are you? Bro, stop playing games. We talking about she did her part. No, she is the only reason. She's the only reason these girls is demanding all this money in the new CBA. She's the only reason these ratings jumped up. The ratings fell 55% when she got hurt. What are you talking?
It was that single phrase, definitely not the only one, though, that hit the nerve no one could ignore. To many, it wasn't just a harmless qualifier. It sounded like a thinly veiled attempt to water down Caitlin Clark's monumental influence on the sport. Critics quickly called it what they believed it was, an effort to minimize a transformation that has been nothing short of historic. Analysts across sports media pushed back forcefully, arguing that Clark's arrival didn't simply contribute to the WNBA's rise, it ignited it. Her transition from college phenom to professional superstar has fueled record-breaking attendance, broadcast ratings, and merchandise sales. She has single-handedly drawn millions of new eyes to women's basketball, reshaping not just the league's visibility but its financial conversations as well. Her influence has extended far beyond the court, into negotiations over new collective bargaining terms, renewed discussions about fair compensation, and a broader cultural reevaluation of women's sports. To imply that she is merely one of several important figures, critics argue, misses the magnitude of what she's achieved. For many, Louise G's phrasing wasn't just inaccurate, it felt intentional. A deliberate attempt to dilute Clark's legacy at the very moment it was cementing itself in history. The reaction was swift and fierce, as fans, journalists, and even former players rallied to defend the undeniable truth. Caitlin Clark didn't just join the movement, she became the movement. And that's why those few casual words carried such weight. To diminish her impact wasn't merely to spark a debate, it was to challenge the foundation of a revolution she built almost entirely on her own, and that's something her supporters were never going to let slide quietly.
Because you shouldn't even be talking about no Caitlin Clark. You shouldn't be talking about Caitlin Clark. Now let's look at Louisa G. You was drafted in 2020, second round pick by the Dallas Wings. Last year, you averaged 7 points and 5 rebounds. You don't get to talk about Caitlin Clark. How about that? We're going to start setting parameters, rules, and guidelines around here. We're going to start setting parameters, rules, and guidelines. Louisa G, I'm sorry, your stats are not good enough for you to be trying to downplay who the woman that's about to get you more money in the league. What are you talking about? She's not.
Proof of Caitlin Clark's extraordinary influence isn't based on fan enthusiasm alone, it's grounded in hard, verifiable data. The numbers themselves dismantle any illusion that her impact is overstated. During her collegiate career, when Clark was sidelined by injury, national viewership didn't just dip, it collapsed, plunging by an estimated 55%. That staggering decline wasn't random or circumstantial. It was a measurable reflection of just how deeply the sports audience had become connected to her presence on the court. For analysts, this wasn't merely a statistic, it was evidence of a phenomenon. Clark's name wasn't just boosting ratings, it was defining them. Her games didn't attract fans by chance, they commanded attention, transforming casual viewers into loyal followers and making every broadcast she appeared in an event. The WNBA's surge in popularity, ticket sales, and brand partnerships has followed that same pattern, rising in direct proportion to her visibility. No other player, not in the current era, and arguably not in the league's history, has generated such a tangible, quantifiable effect on audience engagement. To suggest she's simply one of several important figures in this movement isn't just inaccurate, it's a distortion of reality. This data-driven truth leaves no room for interpretation. Caitlin Clark's influence is singular. Her name alone has shifted the economics, viewership, and cultural relevance of women's basketball. And when weighed against these facts, Louise G's statements don't just appear misguided, they stand exposed as fundamentally false and dismissive of the athlete who has single-handedly redefined the sport's global reach.
Or mind. Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. Definitely not the only one, though. These women done bumped their head. I'm telling you, they can't help but to hate. You know who women's biggest haters are? Other women. That's really who women's biggest haters are. And it shows every single day in the WNBA, the gift that keeps on giving. Every day it shows. This is a typical, oh, it's not only her, it's us too. It's me too.
first question sparked by Louise G's remarks was as blunt as it was universal. Who is she to speak on Caitlin Clark? Fans and commentators alike were stunned by the confidence of a player with a modest professional resume attempting to discredit the WNBA's most transformative star. Clark, notably, hasn't fueled rivalries or engaged in online feuds. She keeps her focus squarely on her craft, her brand partnerships, and her broader mission of growing the game. Against that backdrop, the hostility from Louise G felt entirely unprovoked and deeply unnecessary. Observers were quick to point out the irony. Louise G, a second-round draft pick in 2020, has maintained an average, serviceable career, roughly 7 points and 5 rebounds per game last season. Respectable numbers for a role player, but hardly the credentials of someone positioned to critique one of the most dominant athletes of her generation. The contrast between her performance on the court and the authority she assumed online only magnified the perception of hypocrisy. It left many asking whether envy, rather than honesty, fueled her statements. That tension evolved into a broader debate about professionalism within the WNBA. Fans called for clear boundaries, an unspoken code of respect. The emerging sentiment was simple: if your influence and career impact don't approach Caitlin Clark's, perhaps think twice before trying to minimize her contributions. This wasn't about silencing dissent, but about discouraging misinformation and unnecessary hostility toward a player whose presence directly benefits everyone in the league. The outrage grew louder as analysts revisited Clark's measurable achievements. She's not merely the face of the WNBA, she's the engine driving its rapid ascent. Every sold-out arena, every record-breaking broadcast, and every new sponsorship traces back to her influence. The data is undeniable. Meanwhile, teams connected to those who challenge her, including the one Louise G plays for, often struggle to fill even their smaller venues. That contrast underscores the simple truth: the league's financial boom and global attention are inseparable from Clark's rise. Yet through it all, Caitlin Clark has remained remarkably composed. While social media debates raged and podcasts amplified the drama, she kept her distance, reportedly spending her downtime working on her golf swing at Michael Jordan's private course, the picture of calm focus. She has never responded with hostility or mockery. Her professionalism speaks volumes, standing in sharp relief against the aggression aimed her way. Beyond her performance on the hardwood, Clark's influence extends into every corner of women's sports culture. She's a brand, a businesswoman, and an ambassador. Her involvement with projects like Unrivaled and Project B showcases her commitment to building something bigger than herself, a sustainable platform for future generations of athletes. Her reach goes beyond basketball; it's reshaping how women's sports are marketed, viewed, and valued across industries. That's why Louise G's repeated attempts to double down on her statements, first online, then again on her podcast, struck such a dissonant chord. It wasn't a single lapse in judgment. It was a pattern of defiance, reinforcing the sense that her actions were calculated for attention rather than rooted in genuine conviction. By continuing to push the same narrative, she solidified public perception of her comments as petty and performative, and ultimately self-defeating. Worse still, the controversy dragged other players into the crossfire. Clark's defenders, in trying to correct misinformation, found themselves citing statistics and attendance numbers that cast her peers in an unfavorable light. What began as an isolated remark spiraled into a divisive debate that risked pitting women against one another, a dynamic that, ironically, undermines the very progress Clark's success is helping to build. Commentators have long observed this pattern within the league. When a new superstar rises to historic prominence, some established players struggle to celebrate her ascent. The refrain of "it's not just her, it's all of us" surfaces time and again, an instinct to share credit for what is clearly a singular revolution. But the reality is unambiguous. No other player consistently sells out both home and away games. No other player forces arenas to relocate games just to accommodate demand. And no other player has generated this level of international buzz or economic growth for women's basketball. To pretend otherwise, critics argue, is to distort the truth. This revolution isn't collective, it's catalytic, and the catalyst is Caitlin Clark. Her presence is rewriting the trajectory of an entire league, redefining its commercial viability, and breaking barriers once thought unshakable. In the end, the calls from fans and analysts converge on one message: enough is enough. The constant attempts to downplay Caitlin Clark's impact have grown tired, counterproductive, and damaging to the league's image. The WNBA has never been more visible, more profitable, or more culturally relevant, and that surge didn't happen by accident. It happened because of Clark's extraordinary talent, charisma, and relentless drive. This isn't about silencing opinions, it's about recognizing reality. Professionalism demands respect, especially toward the very player whose success is creating opportunities for everyone else. Caitlin Clark remains undeterred, focused, composed, and unshakable. Her legacy is being written not through arguments or social media exchanges, but through sold-out arenas, global sponsorships, and a fan base that continues to expand by the millions. Despite the noise, she stands where she always has, above it. Caitlin Clark isn't just part of the revolution. She is the revolution, the singular force reshaping women's basketball and proving, once again, that truth and talent always outlast the noise.